Hello, it's Wednesday, August 20th. Welcome to another episode of the Mituye News. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, please do check out the Substack. If you find it useful, I think you will. Give it a subscribe. You'll see all of the stories that we do every day. Those are the stories that we pull from in order to do these episodes. So yeah, give it a look. Check the link out in the description. Also, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, like and subscribe, as it were. And if you're watching on Twitter, follow me, I guess, or like the video, shared, and so on. We'll start in Venezuela. We have Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro says he's deploying 4.5 million militia members in response to outlandish threats by the United States. Let's take a look. Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, on Monday said he would deploy 4.5 million militia members in response to outlandish threats by the United States after Washington raised the bounty for his arrest to $50 million and launched anti-drug operations in the Caribbean. Quote, "This week, I will activate a special plan with more than 4.5 million militiamen to ensure coverage of the entire national territory. Militias that are prepared, activated, and armed," Maduro announced on state television. Now, I'll lay my cards bare. I have grown to be somewhat of a fan of Maduro, even though I take strong anti-authoritarian stances, anti-dictator stances. What I like about Maduro is not so much this is not I guess a admission to enjoying that style of governance or that Maduro is uniquely capable of administering that style of governance, but rather what I like about Maduro is he's not going for it. I like his unflinching stance. I like when figures in the what we call the global South take aggressively non-compromising stances in the face of Western imperialism. Because I think that's a necessary step towards us moving towards a better world in which we don't have this sense of entitlement amongst Western powers that they can say jump and everyone is supposed to say how high. Maduro says, who? Says who? I'm not jumping for nothing. He's a general in the most kind of iconic sense to me. And I think he represents a kind of resistant spirit that I think needs to take hold in order for even my own country to function properly. Like we need resistance. We need to understand sovereignty is real and other countries are sovereign, right? That like Venezuela is in a position to make decisions for itself. Maduro appears to be rightfully elected. There was a bunch of contestation a couple of years ago now about whether he truly was deserving of the seats. It appeared from a distance. Again, I don't have a lot of insider knowledge. It appears that he has enough support for me to say he has popular support and for me to believe the story that he was duly elected and to believe that it was the Western powers that tried to foment a coup. They tried to depose him. And it wasn't an organic movement from inside of Venezuela. But that no expert, don't know from a distance. What I do know is that I have liked his disposition in relation to those ambitions of Western powers. But there's been a long-standing beef between Maduro and the West, particularly the United States. We share a side of the world. And so I think they doubled this. This 50 million figure represents a doubling. So this is an escalation in their pursuit of deposing Maduro, and Maduro is still rejecting the invitations to step down. So here we are. The most experts suggest the number is smaller than 4.5 million. That's a bit of an exaggeration. This was set up by his predecessor, Hugo Chavez. These militias that are capable of being activated to defend mass amounts of territory kind of instantly. But yeah, the point for me isn't the number. The point for me isn't the scare tactics. I don't think any amount of militia could truly push against the U.S. if it had its sights set on Maduro. But I like the disposition. I like the yeah, man, I got something for that. Oh, I like that stance that Maduro often takes. I like when he wears his chains. I kind of have an affinity for resistance figures, I think, maybe. So anyway, that's what's going on. We've doubled, we being the United States, has doubled the bounty for the arrest of Maduro. They're accusing him of all types of things, truly being like some type of criminal cartel leader smuggling cocaine and this kind of thing. You know, he's not really a legitimate political actor. He's a criminal posing as a president, and so that's the United States' stance. So they have justification for his arrest. They want him in chains. I say long live Maduro, not in the sense of authoritarianism, but in the sense of long live the spirit of resistance. I guess I could say that. So anyway, that's what's going on. Venezuela and the United States are going back and forth, and he's activating the militia, so they will be around. Let's see what we got coming up next. Get rid of this here. Oh, the DHS. Yeah, the Trump administration expands good moral character requirement to become a naturalized citizen. What does that mean? What's going on? The Trump administration is expanding the requirements for immigrants who are hoping to become U.S. citizens to display good moral character, in a move that some immigration lawyers denounced as a troubling change that adds uncertainty to the naturalization process. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, an agency within the Department of Homeland Security that administers the country's legal immigration system, directed its officers in a memo last week to more heavily consider both positive and negative attributes or contributions of people going through the naturalization process. Okay, so you want to be a citizen, right? You've moved here. You want to be naturalized as a citizen. You no longer want to exist in some type of temporary status. You want the benefits. You want to be a citizen. Alan, personally, and this is derived from my thinking as a kind of political philosopher, I treat citizenship like it is gold. Like, I really do think the value of citizenship has to be incredibly high. So I think the bar to attain that, if it's not inherited by birthright, has got to be extraordinarily high. So as per usual, I find myself at odds with a lot of my peers, a lot of people I share other values with, because I don't think, I guess, frankly, everything the Trump administration does is not toxic to me, just on face. But I don't also take issue with making citizenship like hurdle. Like, okay, what does it mean? So essentially, many of the things that they're suggesting here are that, like, we're increasingly going to scrutinize mistakes. Multiple traffic tickets. You didn't pay your child support. You got a DUI. No. Do you want this or do you not want it? If you want it, act like you want it. You're going to have to really think about that as you behave on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's valuable, so you should do the things that allow you to advance your interest here, and especially if your interests are attaining citizenship in the United States. These are the requirements. I think it should be high. And then on the positive end, this move towards a more positive understanding. What do you do? Like, what do you contribute? Do you volunteer? Are you an elite professional? Like, what is it? That would make us grant you this elite status. You're an American citizen. This is like, this is the gold card, right? This is a thing that is enviable in much of the world. What have you done, sir, madam, to deserve such recognition as a U.S. citizen? So I don't hate it. I get the concerns, though. The concerns seem to be really that, like, it adds this subjective layer to the process, in that many of the officers are going to have to, the people that determine this are going to have to review applications and make a judgment. Like, did you demonstrate that you have good moral character? And that can be slippery, especially if the officers have pre-standing biases. Like, there's nothing you can do, right? So imagine you walk into the room, I'm a Haitian man, I walk in, and this dude hates Haitians, maybe has some type of bigotry against black people. I volunteer every week. I lead the middle school soccer club. I work really hard down at the O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and the person, not enough. Didn't demonstrate it. So I get that concern, but I guess I see that as a not separate issue, but a subset, or like a sub issue to what's at stake here, which is like, should there be any hurdles to citizenship? If so, what should they look like? Can you get a DUI? Can you not pay your child support? Allen says, nah, man, like, nah, we got to encourage, we got to foster an environment where we act like it is what it is. That like, if you want it, you got to work for it. And to work for this means to behave in such a way that the DHS, or rather that the officer in front of you looks at the thing and goes, yeah, man, good, oh, you're great, welcome to the club, man. And I welcome you with open arms. I'm obviously pro immigration as a stance. Like I'm not a closed, homogenous society type of person. But yeah, people should come. Yeah, people should come. And to get citizenship, you got to work hard. I'm not even saying you should be deported for these offenses. I think you might be disqualified from the full suite. Right, you might not get into the gold club, as it were, if you don't demonstrate that. Like, yeah, there's a good reason. There's a good reason to give you this membership here. But anyway, that's what's going on. They've expanded greater requirements, moral character. What's required to demonstrate that has expanded. I apologize if you're watching this while my camera is so finicky today. Again, I'm new to this. All of these kinks should get worked out over time. But yeah, it's coming in and out quite a bit. I can see it on my screen. But yeah, that's what's going on. The Trump administration is expanding what that means and what that then requires. So let's take a look at our next story. Oh yeah, it was Texas. Man, what y'all got going on between causing the turmoil with the redistricting and this? We're gonna put the 10 commandments. Every state that is trying to move forward with this 10 commandment mandatory in public school stuff needs to cut it out. Like, this is unreasonable. I get what they're trying to get at, but it's unreasonable. People are not going, this is just going to call. Let me focus. Judge halts Texas law mandating the 10 commandments in school. The state law had said public schools would have to display the 10 commandments in a conspicuous location in every classroom in Texas by September 1st. All right, let's get into it. A federal judge in Texas temporarily halted on Wednesday a state law that it would have required the 10 commandments to be visibly displayed in every public classroom by September 1st. The law passed earlier this year by the Republican-controlled legislature mirrors one in Louisiana that was declared plainly unconstitutional in June by a panel of judges from the conservative U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. A federal judge also blocked a nearly identical measure in Arkansas this month. Yeah, the judges are shutting this down, and for good reason. And if you've been reading, as you should, sign up for the newsletter. And when the governor of Louisiana was arguing with the guest that was on Joe Rogan, and he was like, the separation of church and state is a myth. I think he was going to make some type of technical claim around the historical thinking of the founding fathers and what. Move along, brother. That's not a good faith argument. You know what people are saying, and yes, we do need a separation between church and state. I'm increasingly concerned that we can't. The public school, everything can't be a proxy for the culture war. So every public institution can't be a battleground, or we won't be able to function properly. This seems to be part and parcel of a larger dispute, of a bigger fight around foundational moral values, or understanding of the relationship between Christianity and the kind of basic cultural system of the United States, that like these things are enmeshed. We've largely been a Christian nation and so on, or at least many of the citizens have been Christian, like a vast majority and so on. And that Christianity provides precepts, foundational claims that undergird our constitutional doctrine and so on. I'm a Christian. I'm like not mad at all that. What we not finna do though, as my grandma might say, is put the 10 commandments on the wall and make that mandatory in public schools. That's not a good idea. That's going to trigger pushback. That's going to trigger combativeness, rightly so. Some people don't agree to those relationships between, religious theology and, kind of a moral foundation, whatever. Let me not get all off the wagon here. Let me just say that. As far as Allen is concerned, these are absurd attempts. I'm glad the courts are intervening here. I think they just said not all of the schools. It was like 10 school districts or something, 11 unnamed districts that are being chastised here. The injunction applies only to the defendant districts, so I guess some districts filed suit. Anyway, the details of the story aside, that's what happened. Some federal judges are pushing against this in all of the southern states that are attempting to do so. I think what is the Bible Belt, right? This region of like very aggressive biblical. I won't call it zealotry. I won't be that bold, but I'll call it evangelism. I won't even call it that. Just a commitment, maybe a very staunch commitment to expressing and promoting Christian values. That they need to cut that out in the public schools. Also, as a country, we're really going to have to stop using every public institution as a site of a proxy battle or what has to be a cultural battle. As the culture wars, I keep saying, the culture wars are bleeding into the policy sphere. The culture wars need to be fought in the cultural sphere. Make art, make music, right? Make t-shirts with the 10 commandments on them, sell them. I'm a Christian, rock out, bro. Like, tell people, play the Marvin Sapp loud out the car. Do what you gotta do. Promote it. You know, well, so just leave the cultural war where the cultural war can be fought. When the culture war bleeds into policy, there's a thin line between the two, but like this is way over the line. This is very far beyond like where those, you know, we make murder illegal because it's bad. So there is something, you know, the kind of moral cultural line between law. I get it, like, but that's not what we're arguing about. This is way past a reasonable intervention in terms of like the fight between various cultural forces in this country right now. All right, well, that's what's going on in Texas. Hey, Rain. That's what's going on in Texas. We will now turn to our final story of the day. Again, I apologize. The next episode shouldn't have so much in and out in terms of the video. And this is our final story for today. Montgomery mayor proposes a $353 million budget. Okay, what's going on down there in Montgomery? Is this Stephen Reed? Good man there. Looks like a quality gentleman. Montgomery Mayor Stephen L. Reed on Tuesday presented his proposed fiscal year 2026 general fund operating and debt service budget to the Montgomery City Council, outlining a responsible and balanced plan that reflects the city's growth, priorities, and values. The proposed budget totals $353.2 million, representing a 6.5% increase from the previous year. Quote, budgets are where our values show up in real numbers, Reed said. This proposed budget is balanced, responsible, and designed to sustain Montgomery's growth while serving every neighborhood in our city. And on face, like I took a brief skim at it. I applaud it. It looks like a really good budget. It looks like it does represent a set of values that I could say should be reflected in the city government. Like this is like good. My only concern seemed to be around like the amount of big corporate investment that is facilitating the growth, Amazon and so on. I am quite skeptical of large corporations. I think they can lead to kind of a false sense of security in terms of where the city is headed, because they can pull out and they can cause devastation. So I tend to want the slow and steady kind of, local business grow approach, medium-sized businesses, regional businesses. These kind of global corporations being like, hey man, we got some money for you. And it's like, yeah, brace the budget around Amazon. Because Amazon gonna give us a $2 billion over the course of 10 years. That's not the case here, it's less. But the point remains that they are leveraging some corporate investment to make sense of their budget or to consider it. But at a time, I think I just was reading in Denver, they just like laid off a bunch of city employees. Chicago is having huge problems. Philly can't get the transit system. They don't have funding for the buses. It's good. It's really like uplifting to see like, yeah, man, it's like a good budget. It's in a reasonable place. The city is growing. And it's not raising like alarm bells to me, like when I'm reading over, skimming over what's going on. Like I remember reading the mayor of Long Beach needed a $2 billion budget, and like a bunch of it was to go to undocumented people. Like, this is you don't have the money. Like, what's happening? None of those kind of red flags. And I'm kind of a fiscal, like, I don't know, I'm quite worried about like the debt and all of this. So like I'm quite often concerned about frivolous spending, just like spending like money's not real, like budgets aren't real. This just was cool. So shout out to Mayor Stephen Reed. Shout out to Montgomery, Alabama. I hope the city council does whatever they need to do in reflecting on the budget, and I hope they move forward. This looks good to Alan, for whatever that's worth, as as someone in a barn making a video. So y'all have a good rest of your day. As usual, I'll remind you the purpose of this newsletter, the purpose of this show is to just provide context, keep my commentary as conversational. I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I'm trying to provoke you to think, to respond to me maybe and my ideas, as it were. The point of all of this is to make American citizens harder to conquer by making them more knowledgeable of what's happening in the world around them. So take that for what it's worth, and y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Stay out of trouble, man.